All right. Can you guys speak real quick? There we go. All right. All right. Sorry about that, guys. What is up, everyone? Welcome to a very, very, very special episode of the Renegade Roundtable. Like I said, I apologize. We had some technical difficulties going on with the production. That's why it took us a couple minutes extra. But we are finally here. So, obviously, as you can tell, we do have a special guest with us. We got none other than Smitty, or Zach, from the Around the 412 podcast. How are you doing today?
My man, I appreciate you guys having me on so much. Thank you.
Hey, we appreciate you. Stone, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Caleb, how are you doing?
Doing all right.
That is wonderful. Obviously, I hope we can get everyone back in the... we'll get everyone back from that was in the last stream before everything went to hell. But what did not go to hell was the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday and pulling out the victory against the Buffalo Bills Week 1. Obviously, that was a game we were supposed to lose, it seemed like, according to all the media. And what happens? Once again, fat dubs. I would do the Jameis Winston, but I don't want to embarrass myself on YouTube.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that live. I feel like that could get clipped and
that, and
run
I'm
around the
not
internet
trying to
for-
become a meme.
right.
I find that really offensive.
But obviously, like,
Yeah, you have enough memes coming from this show.
yeah,
I know, yeah.
I do not need more memes. We already got some comments back and ready to take these bets. Is that Smitty? That is Smitty. Jay says, Caleb, blink twice if you're not being held hostage. Hey, Jay, if you've missed it, the last couple episodes, Caleb has come out of his shell.
Just a little bit.
Caleb's come out of his shell, and he has been choosing violence lately. So, but obviously, let's get into it. Let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about the Week 1 game before we preview Week 2 against the Raiders. I think the biggest key to this on the first half for that game was just the fact that the offense was pretty much non-existent and the defense is as advertised. That's pretty much simple as that.
You want to talk about Week 1? Can we just acknowledge first of all that today is the 2-year anniversary of the Minka Fitzpatrick trade before we jump into any of this?
And also
That's-
Happy birthday!
and also the 1 week anniversary of TJ Watt signing, but I don't know if anyone cares about that one.
1 week. We'll talk about it next year. It can be we can talk about it next year. No, but you're absolutely right. I would say that they were better than advertised. I think that like people came into this game even thinking that there were question marks about the defense. Is the rotation of Ingram / Highsmith going to be able to fill the void of Bud Dupree? We also lost Steven Nelson and Mike Hilton. What's Cam Sutton going to look like in an advanced role? I had no idea that Trey Norwood was going to play 70% of the snaps, but he had a nice game as well. PFF's lowest graded safety, Minka Fitzpatrick, was all around the field, moving all around. Wasn't just that free safety. Played in the slot as well. Played some dime backer. He was everywhere. The man that started this all for me, though, is Cam Hayward. 12 pressures in this game. I don't want to highlight PFF at all. I was actually throwing a shot at them, by the way, with that Minka Fitzpatrick comment. However, they did say, and because they said something positive about the Steelers, we can bring it up. They actually graded Cam Hayward's game as the highest by an interior defensive lineman
Since
since
2017. Yep. And here's what's
So
crazy.
that actually matches the eye test for me. That one checks out. That's good. Good on PFF for that one.
Here's what's crazy too. We talk about pressures. 3 of the top 5 most pressures in Week 1 were by Pittsburgh Steelers. Cam Hayward with 12. He led the league. Then you have TJ Watt with 8. Melvin Ingram with 8. So when you have those guys get into the quarterback, especially at the fact that you blitzed only 3.7% of the dropbacks that Josh Allen had, and you're getting home, that is scary.
Yeah.
That is very scary. And that's also
I just don't get it because Melvin Ingram was washed too. I mean,
yeah, and that's also without Tuitt either. Let's not act like Tuitt is. I mean, Steeler fans understand how great he is. I feel like he's become very underrated by, I guess, media in itself because no one talks about him. But I think him in that defensive line with Cam Hayward.
Yeah. You're talking about Tua coming off the best season of his career last year, 11 sacks. I mean, unbelievable. So, yeah, hopefully we just don't have him for the 3 games he's back for week 4. But like you said, for them to be able to generate pass rush, just rushing 3 or 4 guys, I mean, that allows you to keep 5-6 defensive backs on the field. Guys like Trey Norwood, like I said, playing 70% of the snaps. James Pierre with a solid first showing. You know, there was a lot of question marks. We have high hopes for him. Everything translates well. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, but he only played 38 defensive snaps last year. So huge question mark. So far, so good. And I brought this up too. I don't know if they could have been thrown into the fire any more than having to play week 1 in Buffalo, backed with full capacity stadiums. I mean, trial by fire.
What's ironic is the fact that the Bills beat us in the fan voting, but that we beat them in the game that really mattered. So how about that?
I mean, look at the teams. Look at the teams that finished on top of that: Cleveland and Buffalo. I mean, congrats, their fans have success, but what has their team had success in the last 30 years?
I mean, Buffalo's
shots fired.
Buffalo went to 4 Super Bowls. Y'all couldn't win 1, and the Cleveland Browns. Don't get me started on you and your low clown fan base and your clown.
Well, see, the thing about that too is the Browns wish they had the success of the Bills, so that's a whole nother level of bad.
Yeah, so anyone, go ahead and start tagging Browns fans, because, I mean, we might just let it all loose today. I don't know. But
Can somebody buy Kirby a bigger spoon for when he stirs the pot? Like, does anybody want to buy him, like, you know, a ladle or anything?
Go right ahead. If y'all want to get me a black and gold ladle, y'all can hit my DMs. I'll give you my address and we'll work things out.
Yeah, hit Kirby's DMs. Don't hit mine.
Is it just coincidence that every time that I watch this show, you say tag Browns fans, or do you actually do that every episode? Because I'm telling you, I mean, every time that I'm watching this, it seems like I hear that, and I'm like, oh, this dude wants the smoke.
Hey, all the smoke. Not the Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson podcast, but I want all the smoke with all the Browns fans. Apparently there was bets going on in the comments saying I'm going to hit the over on how many times I mentioned that team in that state, but apparently that's become the thing. But before we continue real quick, I want to say we did hit our milestone. We did hit 100 subscribers. We're actually at 106 right now. So thank you everyone for subscribing. Thank you everyone for supporting. It means a lot to all of us, and I'm going to say this for myself personally is getting started with all this, seeing Smitty and doing what they do with the Around the 412. It was like, all right, things could really happen, and I personally want to say to you guys, thank you for giving us motivation to go and do this, and obviously, here we go.
Love it. Appreciate it. I hope you guys keep going. I didn't, when you guys introduced me, I didn't say it. Let me say it now. You guys are doing something awesome. Like, I tune in as much as I can. Obviously, I do 3 podcasts a week, so that takes up a good bit of my time between that and my actual job. But I watch you guys when I can. I think what you guys have going is awesome, and just giving the fans' voices something else to tune into. So I'm glad to be on here. I'm glad to be a small part of this. I can't wait to see where you guys take it.
We love it. And not only that, we not only do podcasts, but then we also get authors. We have authors with us as well. So
I'm looking forward to that book because I need to read something while I'm rehabbing my knee after my surgery. So,
I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm
looking forward to it.
But getting back to what everyone came here for, which was obviously.
Oh, we're not here to talk about the book?
We can make a whole episode about Divine Discovery. We could do that.
Who was going to talk about it that whole time? I don't want, honestly, after writing it, if I never have to look at it again, that's fine with me. Like, after doing editing a book, I would rather be waterboarded.
All right, so Smitty and Caleb, do we want to do a weekly podcast on where we just discuss Divine Discovery?
I mean, but what do we do once we're done reading the book? I mean, the podcast just ends? Like, we do the podcast until
then we find another.
It's a trilogy, so there's 3 books.
Yeah, but okay, all right. What if the first one stinks? No, I'm kidding.
Then I'm gonna delete all of my social media and never talk to any of you ever again. All
right, we're getting way off track here. We haven't even talked about the great offense the Steelers put on display.
Oh boy, in the first half, lack thereof. Where they had 54 total yards of offense in the first half. Najee Harris, the man that was supposed to be a huge part in the well, let me not say that because that sounds like an unfair criticism, but he ended up in the first half with 7 carries for 8 yards, which in a way does not surprise me. You have an offensive line that needs to gel. You have a very young offensive line, and I feel like that was something that I've been trying to preach to people is it's going to take some time for them to gel with each other, to get comfortable with each other. Mm-hmm. And then once that happens, then the offense is going to start to click a little bit. And I think you look at the first half compared to the second half, it's a completely different ballgame that we're talking about.
Right. Yeah, I think even for, you talk about the offensive line needing to gel, and there's going to be growing pains, and I hope that people are anticipating that happening. But I think what's so encouraging about it is you saw the growth just from one half of football. Like, you saw them play better in the second half. Imagine when we're at, like, the midpoint of the season, what these guys are going to look like. Everybody looked better in the second half than they did in the first half. Matt Canada, the guy running the show for the offense, is going to have his own growing pains. He's a first-time offensive coordinator in the NFL. Like, everything about this is new. They need to lean on this defense like they did in that win against Buffalo. Like you said, honestly, necessarily wasn't expecting them to win that football game, but it's great that they were able to special teams touchdown as well. My guy, UG3, scoring a touchdown. And come out of there with a win. And that way, all we have to talk about is, yeah, it wasn't beautiful, but they still came out of there with a win, and we can talk about these growing pains as opposed to they're 0-1 and the sky is falling.
Yeah.
On that subject, I like that you can see the potential, even if it's not gelling right away, even if it's not, uniform across the board and everything runs smooth. I like that in each player, you can see that potential. And as soon as they get it together, when they're in sync, it is beautiful. I mean, even if it is just one play at a time and we have those growing pains, but I like that you can already see it. It's not worth questioning. Are we ever going to get there? Is anybody ever going to be good? You know what I mean? Like you can.
I mean, yeah. Besides Chuks, yeah, he's done. He's cooked. That's my big concern with this game against the Raiders, by the way.
That has me sweating, to be honest with you.
Yeah, obviously, that's on the offensive side of the ball. We got to obviously watch out for Darren Waller. He's a weapon. You're not going to completely shut him down, but you got to limit him. But I'm worried about Max Crosby versus Chuks. I had a nightmare about it last night, actually. So
here's my thing, what you just say, and I think one of the advantages that this defense has when you talk about we all know Derek Carr is going to target the hell out of Darren Waller. Then if it's not him, he's going to go after Hunter Renfrow. And if it's not that, you got Zay Jones, or I believe, what is it, Zay Jones? Is that his name?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a main focal point of the offense.
But I think what's nice is when you have a team that can get to the quarterback without having to blitz, and you have your 2 middle linebackers, Devin Bush, Joe Schobert, who can run the field. They can run sideline to sideline. And then you got a secondary. You got an experienced secondary, if you want to say what, Minka and Terrell Edmonds. Your corners are young. You have your veteran Joe Hayden, but then you got Cam Sutton. He's kind of in a new wave. Then you got Trey Norwood and people like that. But I think this defense can find a way to help slow down Darren Waller, because I don't think you're going to lock down Darren Waller. It's just not going to happen. But I think this defense is set up to do that kind of thing. And especially you look at the success that, I mean, Stephon Diggs. I understand different position, and I know Darren Waller is a big body kind of player, but he was Stephon Diggs. He was the leading receiver in yards last year. He really did not have all that much of an impact.
No, he had 9 for 69, and a lot of that came in garbage time where they were just playing behind him, behind the sticks, letting him catch the ball, just making sure he stayed in bounds. Yeah, but Waller is a different, he's actually more of a receiver, I think, than a tight. You'll very rarely see him actually line up in line. He's going to be in a slot, a big slot guy. I think Chase Claypool is actually a comparable in terms of body, and Tomlin said the same thing. People aren't going to want to hear this because they don't like him. Terrell Edmonds did a nice job last year against tight ends. I think he's probably going to be the first in command in terms of that, probably give him some help as well. But I think that's why it's so important what we're seeing from Trey Norwood is because Edmonds has always been at his best around the line of scrimmage in the box. He's a very short tackler. He's not that deep safety. He can't be that guy. He doesn't have the ball skills. But if you have another safety like a Trey Norwood that can play deep, let Minka roam, and then let Edmonds play in the box, that's why Norwood is going to be so important for this team. I'm surprised that it's immediately, like I said, 70% of the snaps already, like he played in Buffalo. But you're going to see that role pretty much stay the exact same, if not expand, to the point where those three are going to be on the field all the time.
And I think what you just said about Terrell Edmonds playing the best in the box, I think that also helps from the fact that your brother, who played for the Buffalo Bills, Tremaine Edmonds, is one of the better young linebackers in the NFL. So you're around that, and when they played together at Virginia Tech, you learn those different kind of skills. You take skills from each other, and you learn. And I think that's one thing that's really helped Terrell Edmonds. And like you said, a lot of people don't tend to like him. I don't know why. Is it because if you're a safety that plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're supposed to become the second coming of Troy Polamalu? I don't get that. I mean, especially with his kind of ball or with his kind of sets or skill set. I think people didn't think that he was a first round pick, and realistically, was he? I don't think that he, especially once you don't pick up his 5th-year option too. Not to say that he isn't part of the future, but once you don't pick up his 5th-year option, really the only benefit of taking a guy in the first round. That kind of throws out the idea that this guy probably should not have been a first rounder. He had a 3rd-round grade by most people. I think the Steelers just kind of looked at it as this guy is so athletically gifted that we feel like he's going to continue to grow each year. And I think it's a comparable situation to like Bud Dupree, right? Where first couple years, he was not anywhere close to the player that he ended up developing into. But as time went on, kind of a late bloomer, if you will, his best football was played in years 3 and 4. So I don't want to completely rule out Terrell Edmonds being part of the Steelers' future, but I also don't necessarily disagree with him not picking up that 5th-year option because I don't think he's a $9 to $10 million player. Right. Someone asked someone get Carl Joseph on the 53.
Yeah, I'm curious to see when that's happening. I know that, like the COVID stuff when he first signed to the practice squad and probably still getting like ramped up into the way of things, but I would assume we'll probably see him in Cincinnati week 3, I would think.
Possibly. Yeah. And going back to week 1 real quick, here's an interesting stat, and I know Stone is going to love this stat because it involves Alex Highsmith. And anytime Alex Highsmith gets involved, we all get happy here on Renegade Roundtable and around the 412. So the quickest pass rush get-off in terms of how quick you get off the ball, number 1, Joey Bosa. Number 2, Alex Highsmith. That is incredible. Especially coming from the fact that he also tweaked his groin earlier in the week last week. So that's incredible. I love this trio of TJ Watt, Melvin Ingram, who's supposed to be washed, and Alex Highsmith, who people love to outside of
They
Pittsburgh
slept on him
to.
last season. I'm telling you, I've been saying it even before we had Mr. Sam on the show. They were sleeping on him. They really were. He's hungry. That's the thing. Is he's hungry and he can do it. He'll put in the work.
He has a chip on his shoulder. And you love
But
a
he's
player
using
like
it for motivation.
Mm-hmm. You love to see that in a player.
Yeah, he's carried that the whole time with him, lightly recruited, actually not recruited at all, really. He had to walk on at Charlotte and then earn literally everything. Like, nothing has been given to him. So, and he still plays with that exact same mindset and edge today. It'd be dope. He should get, you ever see when those players will get, like, literally a chip tattooed onto their shoulder?
Mm-hmm. I think Von Miller has something like
that. I'm gonna message him and see if he has any interest in doing something like that.
Also, we got a comment from Christopher asking, what about Witherspoon? When do we think we'll see him? I think right now it's kind of in like a ramp-up period, and also maybe taking a little bit of time to learn a little bit more about the defense and things like that.
Yeah, here's the thing with him is they traded an asset, a 5th-round pick, which is like, oh, it's a 5th-round pick. But, I mean, that's valuable draft capital for a team that lacks draft picks seemingly every single year. Especially with not knowing what's going on with the comp formula, depending on how many snaps Joe Haig plays this year. They need a Kella Witherspoon to play in order to make that trade make literally any sense. We didn't see Justin Lane play any defensive snaps at all. However, he is a core special teams player. Does a Kella Witherspoon play special teams? If not, I mean, to me, it's going to be like, how does he get a helmet? Like, who are we taking off the active roster? Not the active roster, but the game day roster to give a Kella Witherspoon a helmet on Sundays. Like, yeah, I don't know who that's going to be.
And one thing too is the fact that he is a kind of a bigger body corner. He's 6'2", 195. So I mean, he's only 26 years old, so he's still kind of young. And obviously, he could be a piece that if he's keep him this year, if something happens, because we don't know what's going to happen with Joe Hayden. Everyone wants to keep Joe Hayden, but we also got to understand that where his age is and the kind of position that he's playing, it may not be the smartest decision to possibly bring him back unless he comes back at a really cheap deal. But he might be a guy that you can look into and say, hey, he could come in next year and be a different part of the secondary as well.
Yeah. The bot is very similar in terms of his size to a James Pierre. That's why I mentioned Pierre's size being so ideal for them. The one thing that I'm like, he's cleaned it up a little bit, but we know the Steelers, if you're going to play corner for the Steelers, you got to be a willing, good tackler. That's been Witherspoon's weakest part of his game since he came into the league. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for Witherspoon to get a helmet. I wouldn't anticipate that it's sooner rather than later. It actually might take an injury for it to happen. We don't want to see that happen. So knock on wood.
Yeah. Which, I mean, obviously you don't want to wish injury. Well, you don't want to, especially with your team. But, I mean, that's one thing, too. I was watching a podcast where Cam Newton was like, I hated when he was in Florida. And he said, I hated having to think the only way I could get on the field is with an injury. And which is, obviously, especially with your teammates, you don't want to have that. Nick says, I'd love to see Joe phase into safety as he gets older, but he said he won't.
Yeah, that's something I brought up on my Twitter as well. Like, you look at Rod Woodson did that, Charles Woodson did that. You've seen already Devin McCourty still playing has done that. It's something. I think it's more about like the mental than anything else. Joe Hayden's definitely smart enough to make that transition as he slows down and isn't able to keep up foot speed wise with a lot of these receivers to be able to still play corner. But yeah, if it's not something he wants to do, then it's not something he wants to do. I just don't know that at 34, 35, we're still going to be able to see Joe Hayden being as productive as he is right now. He's already beaten Father Time. By his age, most corners aren't still playing at the level that he is.
Yeah. Stone, Caleb?
Stone wants to give Joe Hayden like a 10-year contract extension yesterday.
No, I don't. I do love Joe Hayden. I'm really biased on players. I love all the Steelers, obviously, but I'm super biased on who I favor. And I do love Joe Hayden. I love what he does on the field. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, he's not getting younger. That's something that we've talked about multiple times. He, like you said, he's defied Father Time at this point. I agree with whatever he decides to do. I support him fully. It'll be sad if he goes, but I'm hoping maybe we can work something out if he's going to test out free agent. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would love to have him, but if it's not in the cards, it's not in the cards, and I wish him the best of luck.
I mean, I'll gladly take a Joe Hayden clearance jersey.
Yeah, right?
There you go. I remember, obviously, from me being in the state that I'm in, someone had a Joe Hayden, that team's jersey, and when he signed with Pittsburgh, he pretty much just left that in my closet. He left that jersey in my closet, which I couldn't allow that disrespect of that team's jersey being in my closet.
Unbelievable. Do Cleveland fans not have like a good taste in their mouth with Joe Hayden or something?
I don't think they don't necessarily like the fact that he chose to come here. Like when it came to Joe when it came to Joe Schobert, they understood the fact that he was traded here, it wasn't his choice, but they didn't necessarily like the fact that he chose to come to Pittsburgh.
Kind of like how some Steeler fans are upset with Mike Hilton.
Yeah, which I mean, I personally wasn't upset. I was upset the fact that we didn't keep him, but I wasn't gonna get mad at the fact that he went to Cincinnati. I mean, it's a business as well, and if he was able to go and get his money there, then congratulations.
I'm sorry, but that is such a weird thing to me. Like, you know how passionate I am about things, but when people get mad about players for going after money and taking better opportunities, that is such a weird flex. Like, if somebody came to me and was like, "Oh, hey, do you want to come with us and make way more money?" Well, yeah. I don't.
That's the thing.
I'm like, no, sorry.
The Steelers kept Mike Hilton for literally as long as they could without giving him a contract, like an actual guaranteed contract worth big money. They could have at any point during that paid him what he was worth and given him an extension and chose not to, which is fine. Like, business side of football, they have the ability to do that. Like, that's legal for them to do. However, Cincinnati was the team that actually rewarded his play on the field. The Steelers really never did that.
I'm not mad at him for doing what he needs to do. And I don't understand people that are mad. It's all about loyalty. It's about loyalty. And it's a business, though, at the end of the day. That
loyalty's a one-way street, though.
I was going to say, here's the issue that I have with loyalty. And this is a thought that I've been keeping in my mind for a while.
Oh, dear God.
when we look at fans, they say, oh, there's loyalty. You should be loyal to this team, whatever. But what about the team itself? They can cut you at any given point of time, and it's a wrap with that contract. But if you're a player and you say you want to leave, if you're under contract and you want to leave, they say, hell no. But that team could cut you in an instant.
These are the same fans that sit here and say, "Where's the loyalty? Where's the loyalty?" But when we weren't playing in the very good in the first half, they were like, "Fire Canada, fire Tomlin, get everybody off the field. Where's your loyalty?"
Yeah, it's all hypocriticism. That's exactly what it is. And obviously, it's okay if you're frustrated, or in a way where in that first half, as fans, you could be a little frustrated that we're not doing anything, and you're like, okay, the defense is keeping you in the game. I mean, they had that 13-play drive at the end of the first half where it spanned like 5 minutes, but you're still going up against one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL who is in the running possibly at the beginning of the year for MVP, who just got a 6-year contract. You're not going to just completely lock him down. Eventually, he was going to do something. And you could be frustrated at the offense doing absolutely nothing. But, again, it's the hypocriticism that fans have. And that's just a funny game that I love, or that I don't like people doing. But it's always going to be there.
You know me, I'm super annoying because I'm always like positive on Twitter. I'm like, you guys, like, it's gonna be fine. Everybody, it's gonna be fine. Like, keep up the vibe. I'm like Joe Frick over here. You know, I'm like, just keep up. I'm like, keep the vibes. It's gonna be okay. Everyone's like, fire everybody, and we'll go play ourselves. It's fine.
So we got Zay in the comments. He said, "What's good, guys? This is Zay. What's up?" And he said, off topic, and you may have already discussed this, but how do you guys feel about Big Ben possibly making history this Sunday? That is interesting. I think
it's going to be beautiful.
There's actually, Big Ben also made history on Sunday as well. He's now tied for the third most fourth quarter comebacks in NFL history with 36. And he's tied with Drew Brees. Number 2 is Tom Brady, 40? And then number 1 is 43 with Peyton Manning. So if they want to go on 7 or 8 more games of coming back in the fourth quarter, then Ben could possibly make history with that, as long as Tom Brady doesn't do that anymore.
Okay, well, let's not.
Let's not. I hope that we don't have to have that happen.
Through the fourth quarter, not gonna lie.
I mean, do we want that to happen? No, but it's always in the back of our mind. And it also shows that Ben Roethlisberger obviously is just... Not that everyone ever questioned his clutchness, but, I mean, it still shows that the fact that he's clutch unlike another quarterback.
No, people definitely have questioned that.
Which?
Yeah, we're going to have to up the milligrams of my blood pressure medication if he's going to break that record. But, yeah, he needs 3 touchdowns on Sunday to get 400 for his career. I hope that it happens. However, I was hoping he would throw at least 1 more in Buffalo, so he only needed 2. I feel like 2's reasonable. 3... Because I'm thinking they're going to lean heavily on the run in this game against the Raiders. I think this is like the game where everybody that was so upset with Najee after 1 week is going to be like, oh, okay, this is why they drafted a running back in the first round.
And he showed glimpses in the second half. Like, he showed flashes. And
hold on, really quick. I just to comment on that. I just want to say everyone wanted him to come out and play the same way as he did in Alabama. This isn't Alabama. This is vastly different. And we weren't the only ones who watched those highlights. Do you not think other defenses were paying attention to what he was capable of?
I think one thing, too, and here's an example, not of the examples that I usually use, but a running back that came out his rookie year and flourished amazing was Ezekiel Elliott. He came out his rookie year in Dallas. I mean, yet again, that was a very weird year. They go 13-3. Him and Dak Prescott just go off, and then they obviously lose to Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. Go figure. But it's just like, I feel like they wanted him to have that instant success, not understanding that that's offensive line, like we've talked about on numerous occasions, is a work in progress. And I think that is so vital, and I think that's something that people really need to understand is good offensive lines take time to gel. You look at some of the best offensive lines you've seen in the NFL. Again, the Dallas Cowboys offensive line during that time, it took them time to get together, and then once they gelled, everything was amazing. You were able to protect your quarterback, you're able to run the football, And then your offense, because you look at the wide receiver core, you have a wide receiver core that can do damage. You have a running back that obviously he's going to be a workhorse running back. And then you got Ben Roethlisberger, where if he could feel comfortable in the pocket and do his thing, that's when this offense is going to absolutely flourish.
I will say I don't want to see Najee Harris playing 100% of the snaps. I don't think that's necessary.
Agreed.
I give him a breather. Did you see? Yeah, him and David Montgomery are the only two running backs. Montgomery's done it like 5 times over the last 2 years that have played 100% of the team snaps over the last 2 seasons. So, that's ridiculous.
That makes me very uncomfortable.
I did question that a little bit, too. I'm like, I'm surprised you guys didn't give, like, Benny Snell, like, any type of play time either.
Balaj.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised at that. And I think over the course of the year, I think you're going to have to do that. And we understand that Mike Tomlin loves his workhorse running backs. But it's the position that he plays, it's not going to necessarily be the most successful thing that you could do. It's not the best decision that you can have.
I think, too, I just think with this offense as a whole, we're still just seeing, like, little by little it being peeled back. Like, I don't think that we've seen anything close to what they want to pull off from this playbook. Like, we keep hearing, right, and this is going to be very off-brand for me to say because I'm not a big fullback guy, but we keep hearing about the utilization of a fullback. Derek Watt played 4 offensive snaps on Sunday. That's pretty much the exact same as last year, so that has not changed to this point. When they get down on the 1-yard line, please, just one play, go into I form, hand the ball to Najee Harris behind Derek Watt. Maybe it will work. Who knows? We haven't been able to find out for 2 years.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you question why exactly did you bring on Derek Watt if you weren't really going to use him.
They wanted to wait until we signed TJ.
I agree with you though. I don't
discount.
think we've even opened the book yet, honestly. And it makes sense because why would you show all your cards this early? Why? I mean, I'd rather be iffy now and come back later on in the game than in like Chris said, and then in December. I don't want, and everyone knows what we're gonna do. That's what started to have us. Like, we started to fall apart last season. Everyone already knew what we were gonna do. It was easy. I mean, we were calling plays at home.
That's a narrative that we've seen with Mike Tomlin. Look at 2018, where they were the year that they barely missed the playoffs. They were doing amazing, and then the later months of November and December, things fall apart. 2019, they had the opportunity. Obviously, 2019, a lot of people tend to give that a pass, but still, it's the fact that you kind of saw things go downhill in December. 2020, they start off 11-0, and we obviously know what happens next. And that's becoming sort of a narrative with Mike Tomlin, and it makes you question. It makes you question sometimes.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to peak too early, but like that recent trend is the complete reverse of what we used to see. Like, they always used to unleash hell in December. That was when they would get hot, were those later months. So yeah, that trend's reversed. We need to see that either reverse again or just stay the same throughout. We don't need to be falling off a cliff.
And going into what Stone said about last year with everyone knowing the offense or everyone knowing what the offense is going to do. Because naturally, defenses are going to be equipped to stop the underneath stuff, which is pretty much all they were running. And I've mentioned this reference before, is we always hear a team is either one-dimensional, whether they just run the ball or they pass the ball. No. The Pittsburgh Steelers of 2020 were the definition of one-dimensional. Short passes. And defenses in the NFL are going to be able to just lock you down, and then it's going to frustrate the absolute hell out of everyone. And this offense, I think Ben is coming off another year of recovered. He even said that his elbow feels great. I mean, take that he could be saying that in reality. It might be bothering him a tiny bit, but I think I could trust Ben Roethlisberger saying that his elbow feels great. And like you said, this is only each week we're going to be peeling off a little bit more of the playbook, and it's going to be interesting that once you get the run game going a little bit, then you could start keeping defenses on their heels, where you're able to start lobbing them deep. And you got guys like Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson who you can use in deep threat situations. And I think that's where really the offense is going to start to flourish, is when you can start beating them downfield. And then they're on top. Now they're going to start to play a little bit deep. Now you could get Najee Harris more involved. And over time, the offensive line is going to get more gelled. And I think this offense has a chance to really become something good. It's just going to take a little bit of time and patience.
Speaking of that, I think I'm gonna send Deontay Johnson like a box of tennis balls for Christmas because it worked. You know, I'm
keep
not
them
mad
coming.
about it. Yeah, because I mean, it worked. All right, show the man some respect.
I want to say too with Ben, like I've never questioned the arm, like even especially like this year as opposed to last year. Like last year, you think about it, all that dude was doing was rehabbing it up until it was time to play football. This year, he didn't have to do that. It was all about ramping up the activity the same way he would in a normal offseason. For me, it's just about those 39-year-old arthritic knees and keeping those as healthy as possible and managing him. Obviously, he has every Wednesday off practice. But as far as the arm goes, like I've seen it a couple times in person, like this offseason, and I'm in tight with people that are there literally every single day in that building. Everything about the arm looks exactly like 34, 35-year-old Ben at the very least. It doesn't look like last year. Right. Like they were hiding some things about what was going on last year. The velocity is good. The arm strength is fine. If anything, we're just worried about those lower body mechanics.
Yeah. And
I mean, if you look at a pitcher too, like it's a common thing for us to see the same like story when it comes to pitchers coming off of Tommy John. Their season after isn't necessary. They're not necessarily making as many starts. Their stuff isn't as good. It takes them usually the second season after Tommy John before they hit. Now some do and some don't. So
it's all based on the body.
It's not just a given that you're back. And given his age too, I'm not surprised that like it took another extra season for him to be 100%.
Yeah. And another thing too is here was an interesting stat that I saw is last year the release time for Ben Roethlisberger to get the ball out of his hands was 2.3 seconds. And what was it again on Sunday against Buffalo? 2.3 seconds. Except like Smitty said, it's different because they were trying to hide some things. Where this year, I think they were more comfortable with the underneath stuff because that's what they've been used to. And I think over the course of time, and I think when you go up against the Raiders, who from what I see, you're going up against Crosby, you're going up against Yannick Ngakoue.
Is he going to be good to go though? He hurt his hamstring. If he's out, that's a huge
But so the Raiders generated a pressure on 59% of Baltimore's dropbacks, which was the highest rate in the NFL. Which is if everyone is full go for the Raiders, that's cool. That could possibly be something to really watch out for, especially with an inexperienced offensive line.
Yeah, I don't have a problem if like quick passing is part of the game plan, but if you're doing it because it's literally the only thing that you're able to do, then that's when it's a problem. Like if we talked about showing your cards. Well, the problem is every card that they had last year was a short pass. There was nothing else in the deck. This year we feel like they have something else up their sleeves. They just haven't shown it to us yet.
Here's one thing that I've always referenced in terms of the Steelers' offense and the potential. You look at the games earlier in the season last year. The games that the offense looked the best was when they were actually able to push the ball downfield and throw deep, because now you're really keeping your defense's on their heels. Where you're thinking, okay, he could possibly lob it deep over me. You don't want to give up a big play, but then the run game was going well because now, James Conner had a couple games where he was rushing for over 100 yards, and then on top of that, now you have Najee Harris, which obviously I think is going to be better than James Conner. I think we would all assume that. Pat Freiermuth, he only had, I believe, one catch, but his blocking was insane.
Which was with the big question about him coming out of Penn State.
He was always a willing blocker, but it was something that needed to be worked on. And I think also when you have that dynamic duo of him and Eric Ebron, and I think with a tiny mixture of Zach Gentry, those are going to be things that are going to be interesting as well to see over the course of the years. Also, just how much more are they going to use Freiermuth over Ebron, which only had the one catch, but he didn't drop any, so that's a good sign to start off.
And he played more snaps than Ebron, which this early in the season, that's kind of what I'm looking at.
He's injured, isn't he? He's out.
Ebron hurt his hamstring today.
Yeah,
I was gonna say he's
and this late in the week, that's not good.
Yeah.
I would say as it stands right now, I'd be surprised if he suited up Sunday.
Right,
so.
and that's kind of nice at the fact that you have Freiermuth, who he has the possibility to really flourish a little bit, and he's going to shock some people that are possibly sleeping on Freiermuth a little bit as well.
something that people have to understand too, like you were saying, Ben let the ball go very quickly last year. That was our go-to was get rid of it, basically. Just get it out of here. To pretty much protect him. He had that surgery, and something that a lot of people don't understand is every time you have surgery, you get scar tissue. So if he was to get injured again and hurt himself again and have surgery again, that would have ended his career because you would have too much scar surgery at this point. So it's like, I understand why our quick passes weren't always good passes. He was just trying to keep himself from getting hurt. So that's something else to take into consideration. He's had another year to get, like you were saying, last year was rehab. He's had another year to kind of get back into the swing of things. And then off season, he actually got to prepare like he normally would. And so I think we're going to see the quick passes still, but we're going to see them more efficiently instead of just stay safe.
Right. Yeah, my only questions about Ben aren't even about Ben. It's just the offensive line keeping him upright.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I saw another stat too that's very promising for this offensive line to one of the young guys, Kendrick Green. He was one of the I believe 7 centers in the NFL who had a 100% win rate on his pass protection, which is very promising as well for that interior offensive line for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, him and Creed Humphrey were the only 2 rookies on that list.
I'll be honest. Creed Humphrey was one of the guys that I was high on. It's like when they picked Freiermuth, I wasn't upset because it was like finally they invested in the tight end. They haven't done that since Heath Miller. They keep just trying to bring in a guy on a 1-year deal and hope that they pan out. Nothing against Eric Ebron, but obviously he's not the long-term solution at tight end. So it was finally nice to see them invest some capital there. But it was still like, oh man, Creed Humphrey was on the board. You feel like that's like the staple, like the long-term center solution for this team. We just lost Pouncey. This guy's a plug-and-play guy. They wait another round, take Kendrick Green. Great athlete. You see what he does. He can climb to the second level. The question really with him is just his strength right now, his anchor, his point of attack. But like you said, he had a good game in week 1. Got better from first half to the second half. Obviously, very good in pass pro. But yeah, like everybody else in that offensive line, him, Dotson, and Dan Moore Jr. specifically, I'm just excited to see like what they do as the season progresses. We know there's going to be growing pains. Maybe not so much with Dotson. Trey Turner's the established guy, and I'm really worried about Chooks. I'm worried about the tackle spots, not so much because I'm questioning what Dan Moore is going to be, but for a 4th-round rookie to step in and play right away, I mean, if you're saying that's not a question mark, you're lying to yourself. Yeah, and it's a question of what's going to happen when Zach Banner comes back too, as well.
I'm sitting Chooks and playing Banner at right tackle and keeping Moore at left tackle, but we'll see if that's what happens.
I'll say my thing is when I was studying the NFL draft earlier this year, the other guy I was really interested in was an offensive tackle, Jalen Mayfield. Obviously, me being a Buckeye, I hate Michigan, but I looked at him and I said, I think he was going to be the next Trent Williams. When I looked at his film and I looked at his tape, he was very good in the run game. He sustains blocks very well. He was physical. And I just thought he would have been a perfect fit for us. But Dan Moore Jr., he's going to be a guy that I think over time, he has the potential to be one of the better ones.
Did you see Jalen Mayfield's week 1 performance?
I did not.
He was horrible. Pretty sure he's actually playing guard now, and he's playing in Atlanta. So, like, take that with a grain of salt. But somebody put, like, a side-by-side. He tweeted, like, don't want your quarterback to take me.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next picture was Matt Ryan laying on his face.
Just laying motionless.
Yeah. No, but yeah, this was such a deep offensive line class, too. So it's like saying Dan Moore's a 4th-round pick. Really, in, like, any other year, that's a 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah. 2 comments that we got. Christopher says Yannick Ngakoue was limited in practice today. And then Nick also says if Crosby doesn't bully Chucks on Sunday, I'm not worried.
We only acknowledge one Crosby in this city, and it's not Max.
Tell him.
Penguin Jesus, where you at?
Penguin Jesus.
Penguin Jesus is my homie.
Here's an interesting stat too that I saw was so Pittsburgh had a 50% pass block win rate, and Las Vegas had a 51. So both are about half and half, and obviously I think both teams are going up against better defenses than they saw week 1. Obviously I think Pittsburgh is going to be better than Vegas, especially with the fact that we discussed earlier. You can get to the quarterback with just 4. And then you could drive 7 into coverage. that is going, and obviously Derek Carr, he's a very experienced quarterback, and it's going to be the biggest question of how do you handle Darren Waller. That's going to be number one, especially with the fact that we're questioning whether Josh Jacobs is going to play. I think that's something too. That's
the wildest fantasy update I've ever gotten. Josh Jacobs, everything, didn't practice Wednesday. That's literally what
I relate to that though.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
I that's what I said. I said me as an NFL player when I put up the screenshot.
That's just me every day.
But yeah, Derek Carr, I feel like Derek Carr was very underrated last year. He's not a bad player. I think that they've done a very poor job of surrounding him there with talent, minus Darren Waller. Like, Henry Ruggs, to me, kind of a one-trick pony. Didn't
I mean, he threw for what, 435 yards or something like that?
Yeah, you're going to see but if guys are throwing 60 times and they don't throw for 400 yards, that's probably a pretty bad game.
Yeah. 34 of 56 for 435, 2 touchdowns and an interception.
Well, listen, I don't hate Derek Carr. I think he's all right when he doesn't get his eyeliner in his eyes.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I mean,
does anybody else notice that? He looks so scary. His eyes.
Maybe he's just getting dressed up.
He looks like he's trying to do his eyeliner like the Undertaker.
I'm waiting for him to, the Undertaker. I'm waiting for Billy Joe Armstrong to come out with him or something.
If Derek Carr, if you're listening, just grow your hair as long as you can and just start, and then you'll look like the Undertaker playing football, and now it'll become scary. Because then at that point, you just start.
Or you can just start doing Green Day covers.
You said what?
Start doing Green Day covers.
Or that too.
One or the other. Pick an avenue.
But yeah, I think, and obviously with looking at week 1 stats for the Raiders, they had 82 total yards on the ground, and obviously Josh Jacobs being hurt and apparently everything hurt. Only averaged 3.4 yards per carry. Marcus Mariota, he's not, obviously they could use him in different packages. Well, he's not good. He's going to be out because of a quad injury. So you have that. So, and then you got Kenyon Drake. I mean, Kenyon Drake's he's a veteran running back, but I don't think anyone is shaking their boots saying, "Oh my God, Kenyon Drake." I mean, yeah, I know his last name is Drake, and Drake just dropped an album, but obviously wrong kind of Drake there, where he only averaged 1.8 yards per carry. 6 carries, 11 yards.
Yeah, he was not very good on Monday night. They paid him a decent bit, though. Like, I feel like even with Josh Jacobs, when he is 100%, we're still going to see Kenyon Drake involved to an extent. You don't bring in a guy like that through free agency and don't get him involved. But Josh Jacobs is clearly not 100%. I don't know if you guys were watching that game and saw, like, constantly rotating out a shoe because he has a special shoe because he's dealing with turf toe. That's one of the things.
That game was insane to watch because it was like, I really felt like nobody knew what they were supposed to be doing. Like, they were just like, oh, football.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, neither team wanted to win either. They were both trying to lose, and eventually the Raiders were just like, whatever.
It was just so pitiful because it was like you were saying, like, both teams were just like, I mean, I don't know, like, it's whatever, I guess. We're here, so, whoever wins, it's fine.
Fun game to watch for the fans, but I would not want to be a fan of either one of those teams on that night.
It was fun, I think, for us to watch, too. I mean, that's why I watched it, because I was like, I want to see what we're going up against. I'm interested to see, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, my God. Like, what's happening? So it was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
not in a good way.
Here's my thing too, and here's an interesting thing that we got to take into consideration. Just overall throughout the year for Pittsburgh is they have one of the hardest schedules, if not, I think it's in the hardest schedule in the NFL.
Yeah.
And tell me if I'm crazy. The way I looked at this season, and I said this all off season, is I'm getting 2007, 2008 vibes. 2007 for Pittsburgh, they were great. It was Mike Tomlin's first year. And then
Stop living in the past, Kirby.
Oh God, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm living in the past.
Typical Steeler fan.
But and then obviously we know what happened that year. They just get tired. They get drained. And then obviously we know what happens the next year. And I kind of am getting that vibe with this season, where both defenses were phenomenal, and the offenses were mediocre. I would say. You have obviously in that time you had Mewelde Moore, Willie Parker, Hines Ward, Nate Washington, and all them, and Heath Miller. But and then I'm getting that kind of vibe this year, and if I'm getting that kind of vibe, hopefully that leads to the same results.
Yeah, I think that Ben obviously isn't that same elevator of talent. Like he can still facilitate the ball well enough for the offense to run effectively, but he's not going to be able to carry a poor offensive line. I don't think the way that he did back then. And also, like the league just wasn't as high scoring back then. Like now with these aerial attacks, like I'm mentioning, Derek Carr throwing 58 times or whatever you said. Like it's going to be hard to keep up with those types of offenses if you aren't able to put up 20 plus. I think if we score 20 plus a game this year, we're going to win most football games because of our defense. But you mentioned the schedule, that gauntlet at the end of the season.
Yeah,
my goodness.
I mean,
disastrous.
You look at the month of December for Pittsburgh. You play at home against Baltimore. You play on the road against Minnesota. At home against Tennessee. On the road against Kansas City and Arrowhead. Then you have that Monday Night Football against the team that I'm not going to say because I'm not trying to get throat punched even more. And then you play Baltimore again. So yeah, that is a gauntlet for a team that with what.
Although hey, week one overreactions, Tennessee and Baltimore both stink, so it doesn't matter.
And what was I gonna say? Yeah, another overreact. Or the Houston Texans are 1-0. Obviously.
Best team in football.
And they're up there. Cincinnati's 1-0. One of the best teams in football. Joe Burrow.
Who would have thought? I like Joe Burrow. I was about to say something. A lot of hate for this. I'm gonna catch. I know people are gonna be mad that I said that, but I like Joe Burrow.
I do too. I do too.
Not gonna lie, every year I've ever played Madden, like for the last couple of years, I've always traded for Joe Burrow as the replacement for Ben.
I feel so good that we all came clean about this. Thanks, everyone. I can sleep peacefully.
I was about to say something. You know, people might take this, clip this, use it as clickbait, whatever. I'm not going to be surprised if Cincinnati finishes third in the division.
I don't necessarily think that is the worst take. Well, I won't even say that's necessarily a bad take. You look at what they did in the offseason. They went out. They got Jamar Chase. In my personal opinion, I think they should have went offensive line to protect Joe Burrow, but that's a different 100%. Story. That's a different story for a different day. But they got weapons in Cincinnati, and they went out and they tried to build on the defense. They got Mike Hilton, as we discussed earlier. They got Trey Hendrickson. So they really tried to build, add a little bit to that defense that was abysmal a year ago. And to say that they're not going to be a cakewalk, you're not going to go and say, oh, we play Cincinnati, that's an easy game this year. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. They're going to be a pest, is the way I look at it. It's kind of like in fantasy football when you have a guy that, like, for an example, the Indianapolis Colts running back room. I kind of call those pests because you have Jonathan Taylor, but then you also got guys like Naheem Hines and Marlon Mack as well. Kind of in that situation.
Yeah, I think the AFC North is probably the second most competitive division behind the NFC West this year. Because I could see any one of those four teams winning that division now that San Fran's healthy. But yeah, so I've changed my opinion on this due to the health of one of the teams in the division. But yeah, I'm picking Cincinnati now to finish over Baltimore in the division.
Yeah, I think this is kind of just a lost year for Baltimore. They just have way too many injuries.
If they make the playoffs, I mean, give Lamar MVP just for that sheer fact.
And I think not that I think we don't question John Harbaugh as a coach, but I think that would truly solidify John Harbaugh as one of the best coaches in the NFL. If you similar to what happened with Mike Tomlin in 2019, where it was supposed to be a lost year. We lose Ben Roethlisberger. I mentioned this last week. I came out clean. I said the moment they came out that Ben Roethlisberger was out for the year, the first person I started researching more on was Justin Herbert. I'm like, here we go. And obviously, they were one game away from making the playoffs. And that really solidified Mike Tomlin as one of the better coaches in the NFL, if not one of the best.
If they win one more game that year and they're in the playoffs, Mike Tomlin wins head coach of the year.
I thought he should have won it regardless.
Despite them being 9-7. Yeah, I know. But, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. But if your team doesn't make the playoffs, it's just going to be there was zero chance of him actually getting it.
Isn't that like one of the qualifiers, though? Like you're like in the voting process usually, like everyone we've seen for like the last 10 years has made the playoffs.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you one that hasn't. So,
Nick, back to what I said earlier. He said, so you're telling me Minka's going to take a pick six to the house to win the AFC Championship game. Good Lord have mercy if we see that. Chef's kiss. But real quick, let's get predictions. We did not do this last week, but I want to do this this week. Let's do score predictions for this week's game against the Raiders.
Boy. You're putting me on the spot.
24-10.
Oh,
Who said that? Caleb.
that'd be Coach Flat.
All right. So wait, hold on.
It was flat.
So Stone. All right. So wait.
What do I get if I'm spot on?
I will cash out you $10.
Did you guys? Oh, you guys have merch, right?
Yeah,
So just send me a shirt if I get it on the money.
we got you.
I do think the Steelers are going to be able to run the ball, and because of that, I think that it won't be as high scoring because of how much time it's going to take. I think they'll control the time of possession.
I think I have my score in mind.
Okay, go ahead. I'll say 23-13.
Okay. I'm going 17-10 Pittsburgh. And then Caleb, what did you say earlier?
24-10.
24-10. And then what about you, Stone?
Oh, I don't do that.
Oh my God.
I'm very superstitious. No, I don't do that. I'm sorry. I don't. It's just like you will never see me talk bad about a game that's coming up.
All right.
Because I believe that that's bad juju. Not juju, but juju.
Michael says 31-7. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I mean, I would not be mad at that.
Who was that?
Michael.
Michael, let me know what you're sipping on tonight, because obviously it's something. I'll join you.
And then Caleb, he says 58-2. It says that Alabama going up against like Tulane.
OSU.
Huh?
OSU. Going up against OSU.
I could go in a whole rant about that, but we don't have time for that tonight. But obviously, we did go a couple minutes over because we had some technical
Roll Tide.
difficulties.
I'm sorry. There was something.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
I'm never coming on here again.
Oh, I've got your bodysuit in the mail, by the way, Smitty, so don't worry.
No, you don't. Because you didn't even ask me for my address, so I know you're lying.
But
Otherwise, I would believe you.
Yeah. What? Just tell me what color you want, and I'll send it. Because Smitty's gonna wear a bodysuit on his show, and I'm so excited. You guys have no idea.
I made the mistake of telling our listeners that I would wear whatever somebody commented on our YouTube video.
But he did not
on the next
clarify the
show.
rules.
That wasn't me that tweeted that, so it's not me that didn't clarify it. I did clarify it in the video /podcast.
Which, by the way, if you do, I put all of the Around the 412 stuff in the description. I have their Twitter, their website on DK, and their YouTube, Twitter, and the website DK Sports and all that. So I did put that in the description if you want to go check them all out. Be sure to go and do that. But
On Sunday, mute me on Twitter because I'm gonna be a fool.
yet again, I think we all are fools, so we're going to hop in right there with you. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Smitty, for coming on. We do appreciate that. This was I guess we want to call it a Renegades times 412 collab, that we want to call it. But
Around the table.
around the table, there we go.
Around the Renegade Roundtable. Just do that.
Around the Renegade Roundtable. There we go. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hope you have a great weekend. If you're going to the Steelers game, be safe. Don't do any stupid stuff. And go Steelers. Again, thank you, everyone, for hitting 100 subscribers. That means a lot to us. In fact, we gained another one during the show, so appreciate you for that. Until then, y'all have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe and peace out.